Let's take a look at some charts on Swerve from this week's article on Brave New Coin. So Swerve is a fork of Curve. Both are a stablecoin swap platform in the DeFi ecosystem. In Swerve's case, there are 4 coins in the stablecoin pool that you can swap between. Swerve has an anonymous founding team or founder known as John Deere, which is a tractor company, in case you're not familiar with the farming connection there. And according to the founder, in regards to Swerve, they said there's no fake out deployment, no questionable pre-mining, no founder controlling majority of the governance vote, no suspect team proposals, no 30% allocation to shareholders, no team allocation, no decades long distribution, none of it. So they're referring to Curve and their token distribution and VC interest. So Swerve's main goal is to remain community oriented. If we look at the total value locked between Swerve and Curve, I'll get to that in a second. It's pretty clear that Curve is the market leader at the moment and is likely to remain the market leader, regardless of anyone's feelings about the Curve governance token and distribution mechanisms and whatnot. For Swerve, the first 2 weeks saw 9 million tokens released through liquidity incentives, and that shows in the total value locked. I'll get to that again in a second. And another 9 million tokens are released over the next year, with 3 million tokens released for the next 2 to 6 years. The exchange fees on Swerve are also slightly lower, 0.03% versus Curve's 0.04%. Both of them have this time-locked governance token, so they're essentially, again, it's a fork, they're very close, very similar. I think what hurts Swerve is the anonymous nature, potentially, because of the quote-unquote rug pulls that are happening across the board. I don't know if this is a trust issue or just no one knowing about Swerve versus Curve, or liquidity incentives or VC backers. I don't know what this is, but it's pretty clear. So Swerve saw nearly $1 billion in total value locked basically in the first 2 weeks, and that dropped all the way down to currently somewhere less than 20 million. If you look at Curve's total value locked, it's at 4 billion. So they're doing something right. They have more pools, sure, but yeah, I mean, in a vacuum, you'd expect something with lower fees to do slightly better. So there's got to be other reasons why Swerve hasn't really taken off. Maybe the market's just oversaturated with forks and only trusts the first movers. I don't know, I'm just speculating here, but it's a bit weird. If we look at the Swerve token on-chain stats, again, this was the first 2 weeks, sort of the initial distribution of transaction counts. That has all dropped off significantly below 1,000 now. Average transaction sizes have been increasing along with token price, even though transaction counts have been flat. Another reason transaction sizes are increasing is because fees are increasing, so this is pricing out any microtransactions essentially. And so in effect, you're just seeing larger transactions being sent. That's a part of it as well. If we look at NVT, inverse metric of economic utility, that has continued to decline, which is bullish. Active addresses, again, initial token distribution, sort of that 2-week window, and that has fallen off considerably. So for a lot of these projects, I waited and waited and waited to do any articles on them so I could have some discernible data points to look at, right? Like this launched in September, it's had a few months. I'll revisit this again in maybe 6 months. It'll be dead or better than it is now, probably, because it can't get much worse from an on-chain perspective as far as stats are concerned. So maybe things will look different. Maybe there'll be a bug in Curve that'll bring people to Swerve. Maybe there'll be a bug in both of these, and Swerve will fix it first. I don't know. You know, all sorts of stuff can happen. But the way the on-chain stats look for Swerve currently, the token anyway, is rather dire. And even the total value locked, you know, even if you ignore on-chain stats, most of the DeFi world is increasing as far as interest in total value locked and people just ready to throw money at a platform, and we're just not seeing that with Swerve just yet. If we look at the GitHub commits on all the 3 repos, I mean, it's just, I assume this is just basically the forking nature of it. This is the platform and this is the website. So if there's more activity, if there's some individuality about Swerve, right, that makes it a competitor in some way, maybe things will change, but right now it's very milquetoast. Not a bullish situation from where I'm sitting. If we look at the technicals, we're on the 4-hour because there's not a lot of trading history. On Huobi, we have the 50, the 200, VPVR, monthly pivots, volume, and RSI. Something else about just the Chinese interest. So a lot of the tokens are sitting on Huobi and Binance right now if they're not in the staking wallet. And a lot of the documentation that I was reading was in, I believe, Chinese. So this could be an East versus West thing as far as interest is concerned. If the Western world is shying away from Chinese projects for whatever reason, maybe my understanding of this being a Chinese project is incorrect, or an Asian project, non-Western project, non-VC backed. I don't know. There's got to be some weird stigma going on here with Swerve versus Curve, because if you look at Sushi versus Uni, that was an anonymous team. They did all sorts of nefarious things to like steal people away from Uni, right? That's just part of the game. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Swerve did similar things, and yet, here we are with Swerve where nothing's really happening as far as an increase in interest. So again, if we look at technicals, everything's still bullish on the token. So this was the initial 2-week window period where 9 million tokens got airdropped essentially. Prices went down again, and then since January, everything is just lifted off. When the dust settles, after this bull run is over, we'll see if any of these governance tokens are actually worth something. My gut instinct says no, because my gut instinct says everything's hot right now because of speculation, and if speculation dies off, volume dies off, price dies off, those are all hand in hand, then these governance tokens are going to be burning a hole in somebody's pocket, and they're just going to want to sell them. But trend-wise, this looks great. It had a bullish 5200 cross, it had an ascending triangle breakup, just classic stuff, broke above the VPVR support resist levels. So on the way down, I like 130. There's a monthly pivot there, the 200 period moving average rather. So 130 is good, dollar is good, 80 cents is good. All those are supports, and on the way up, you're looking at whatever the monthly pivots are in this case. So 265, 330, whatever that is. If we look at the 4-hour cloud, it's been slightly noisy in January, but overall it's captured the trend. If you ignored the cloud here and knew better as far as to trade the pattern versus the trend metric, then you're golden, right? Because the pattern tells you this is a bullish bias. The cloud is telling you you're correct. It's above the cloud, right? So if you're paying attention to all that, you should have been long there. If you're paying attention to the bullish Kuma breakout here, you're long there. So it's still long. It's still above the cloud. I like support at 150. So if it holds between 130 and 150 in the near term, it should be fine for continuation, and so long as everything else in the ecosystem thrives, which looks to be the case in the near term. Lastly, Swerve BTC on the 4-hour, 200 period moving average, the cloud, VPVR, monthly pivots, volume, RSI. So volume's been dying off basically since the bullish breakout, just less and less buying interest, less and less of anything. Trend has sort of done relatively little overall, so I wouldn't touch this until it is clearly bullish on the cloud, until it's above 3,500 sats, maybe a retouch of this 200 period moving average. Definitely some sort of volume interest needs to pick up. We need to see volume increasing in order for this to do anything trend-wise, I think. And as far as resistance on the way up, 6K sats, 7,300 sats, whatever that is. Basically this local top. So overall, Swerve's riding the struggle bus right now compared to its competitor, especially in regards to fundamentals. Should something happen to Curve, I think people would embrace Swerve with open arms. Technicals for the USD pair look bullish, remain bullish as long as it's above $1.30. Technicals for the BTC pair are neutral to bearish and need more volume to show a convincing bullish rally.